Welcome to Who Dares Rolls. My name's Charlie Etheridge Nunn. I'm covering the role-playing side of the tabletop hobby. Mike, as anyone subscribed to this channel would know, has just put up his return to covering board games after a little bit of a break. So check out his video. And I'm back on Zinequest. So first of all, I figured I'd make sure there are a couple of things clarified about what Zinequest actually is, because I know sometimes people can be a bit uncertain. So first of all, Zinequest runs through all of February, and any of the Zinequest branded projects are 2-week campaigns, so only short ones. They are specifically for small A5 or smaller zines. I have examples here. Gull Underground, which is a lovely Alice in Wonderland labyrinth style powered by the apocalypse game. And I'm Gonna Be, which is even tinier. Look at that. Lovely, sweet little book. And that's by Laura Lovelace and is a nice little solo game. So they're fairly small. They've got to be single colour interior, either unbound, folded, stapled, or saddle stitched. So they're quite nice little projects. Now, a couple of questions that I know people in general have asked about these kind of things are these risky? Like, a lot of people put out tons of Zinequest projects. I'm going to get into a big old list, and this isn't even my first Zinequest video, and it probably won't be my last. Yeah, potentially. I mean, all Kickstarters can be risky. You get some people whose names are dead certs on here, people like McGay Baker. You get people that I've never heard of, and I've been distressingly online following and checking out millions of different indie RPGs. But it's a great way of finding new creators, finding out what they do. So far, I've backed, over the last couple of years, 24 projects, I think, with Zinequest 1 and Zinequest 2. One of which has been abandoned, sadly. 3 of which are still late from Zinequest 2, but they've all kept people up to date. They've all given good reasons for it, and all given really interesting drafts. So personally, I'm good with it as far as Zinequest as a project for people to get you aware of what they do, to have fun, weird little games. As far as any other concerns, what about any other indies? You know, a friend of mine did mention about concerns that people on Zinequest, a lot of money's going into Zinequest projects, which it is. If you have a look at them online, a lot are lowballing their funding prices and vastly exceeding what those are, which, you know, good for them. And everyone's only got so much money. Personally, I keep an eye on Kickstarter, I keep an eye on itch pretty much every day to check out new things. And I don't know is the answer for that one. I honestly couldn't say whether I've spent more or less on itch than I would have with Zinequest. I try to keep fairly restrained on itch anyway, because otherwise I'm just gonna keep just clicking buy on anything. So I honestly don't know, but it's definitely something to consider. A lot of Zinequest project creators share other Zinequest projects and their own itch.io pages or drive-through pages or anything like that. So I don't know, maybe just sharing some non-Zinequest projects as well would be kind of cool. And what about the bigger Kickstarters? And Yeah, that is an issue. There are a few big ones, both in indie and kind of semi-indie spheres, and it's a tricky one. I will be covering them very briefly at the end. Personally, I'm still preferencing Zinequest because they're small and affordable, and frankly, all through last year, I was intermittently playing things that I'd got from Zinequest, so I'm a bit biased. But I am probably going to be backing some of the bigger RPG things that are either on their way or already out, but not before backing the things that I'm interested in on Zinequest. And I will say sorry, Mike, for spamming your email with notifications of everything I've been backing in the last few days. I finally pulled the trigger on a bunch of projects, and that might well happen again, as preparation for these videos really does a lot of damage to my self-control. Anyway, Zinequest. Ooh, let's have a look at some different projects. So, all of the ones that I mentioned in the last video are either active or have finished and are funded. So that's great. Well done them. One of the ones which I'm really enthusiastic about is Warmer in the Winter still. Can't wait to try a full version of that out, and I probably should get a written preview of it after having done a couple of sessions of the game. And it was genuinely heartwarming despite the haunted snowman. So yeah, hopefully that will be around soon. But new projects, new things to mention. We have The Barrier and the Sound by Jay Walton. This is a one-player adventure. It's about weird coastal adventures. And what looks really nice is the zine itself is cut in the shape of a NES cartridge. It's got that kind of like Legend of Zelda, original Legend of Zelda sort of art on the pages, and you're exploring this landscape, and it sounds like it's going to go a bit weird. Like, it's tagged in both Link's Awakening and the Southern Reach trilogy, both of which I love. And given the novelty of the oddness of the book, this is one of the few that I've backed to a physical level, because I'm really intrigued to see how that looks. There's Neon Gutters by Mason Wong, and this is a trophy gold hack, but it's one to create a sort of retro future cyberpunk Hong Kong. It looks really cool, and the way in which Trophy Gold uses sets to present different areas within a dungeon, this is doing that sort of thing to make a massive, expansive city. So I'm really curious to see what Mason does to the trophy system, which, as previous videos will show, I really gel with. So seeing some alternative cyberpunk takes is going to be really interesting. There's House of the Hollow. Now, this is a Morkborg adventure, but it's also usable in any OSR type game. It's by Dylan Mangini, and I don't have Morkborg. I like the look of Morkborg. I'm not much of an OSR person, and I'm very much not a metal person, so I've no major inclination about getting Morkborg. Like, tell me in the comments if I'm wrong, and if even as a filthy metal-hating heathen, I would still really get on with it, because it does look cool. But after running Electric Bastion Land, this looks like something that would do really well with something like Electric Bastion Land. With Beyond the Wall, if you wanted Beyond the Wall to get a bit weirder, and those are basically the OSR games that I know, them and Troika. It's an adventure in a creepy manner. It looks really nice and atmospheric. It's got some lovely artwork, and it just looks like a neat little adventure. There's Our Travelling Home by Ash Kreider, who is one of the authors of The Watch. And I think this is one of the first things I've seen from Ash in a bit. I don't know whether that's my own ignorance. I should really look into that because Ash does good work. This is a Studio Ghibli and specifically Howl's Moving Castle inspired game about travel, about found family, and about queer romance. And I rewatched Howl's Moving Castle a few months ago, and it's such a gorgeous film. It's so good. And that idea of that sort of found family network would be really cool to experience and to play in. Let's see. Next, there's Vampire Cruise, going from something light and whimsical and adorable to just Vampire Cruise. Yep. There's vampires, there's dance clubs, there's ping pong, I assume bowling on the deck, but vampires. This is from Amanda Lee Frank, who was the author of You Got a Job on the Garbage Barge, which was a glorious adventure from Zinequest 2, and I loved it. I really want to run it again, probably in like Troika or Electric Bastion Land, but I really loved that. So if her utter weird adventure madness can be brought to a cruise ship full of the undead, I'm in, really. There's now, last time I covered The Drain for Mothership, and now there's Dying Hard on the Hardlight Station by David Kenny, which is another Mothership game. So I guess I'm running Mothership this year at some point. Who knows? I might even be able to drag Mike into it because I still reckon it's going to be his jam. It's basically Die Hard meets Aliens, or specifically, no judgment here, Alien Resurrection. But despite that, it still sounds really cool. I mean, I like a good Die Hard anyway, but the idea with this is this station's been taken over by mercenaries, so you've got to save your friends and escape. But also there are aliens getting loose. So do you save them? Do you deal with the mercenaries? Do you deal with the aliens? Can you drive them against each other? It sounds like a really fun, really tricky, really messy situation, and I'm always down for that. Next up, we have Wise Women by Alexandra. I'm sorry, my writing is terrible here. Alexandra Brockman, where you play witches in a tiny, isolated village, and you are helping the people of the village despite the kind of suspicion and kind of separation from their society. And you're using plants to help, basically, to create things that will be able to help out. And it sounds like a really interesting premise. I want to have a bit more of a delve into it to see what, like, how the plant use is and how integral that is to the mechanics, because that could be a really cool idea. There's an Altogether Different River by Aaron Lim, and this is where you are building a town. It's a map building game, but you build the town now and the town as it was, and you will play people that have either stayed there or people that have gone away and come back, and seeing how the town changes over time. It sounds like a really interesting idea, and one of the things that drew my attention to it is it uses a modification, a kind of hack of Caroline Hobbs' game Downfall, which is a really interesting GM-less dystopian RPG. This sounds very much not dystopian. It sounds kind of adorable, and I'm really interested in seeing how that goes. The artwork just on the front of it was something that instantly hooked me in. So that's really cool. There's Not a Place of Honor by David Lombardo. It's kind of about disposing of magical artifacts, and I've had some experience of this in my RPGs. A 12-hour session that I had of AD&D many years ago, which was dubbed The Thing That Never Happened by my lot. That was brilliant, but they had no Mount Doom to to dispose of a cursed artifact in. So they had to literally move mountains and put up signs everywhere. This sounds like it's that. It's basically that as a role-playing game. The book has been specifically referred to as a kind of found footage book about these magical artifacts that must be kept away from all people. It sounds ominous. It sounds very cool. Let's see, I'm sure you're wondering why I've gathered you here. This is by Logan Jenkins. This is a card-based game which sounds like And Then There Were None mixed with Battle Royale. You're on an island mansion. There are 12 of you. Doesn't look like it takes 12 players, luckily, but each of you will be playing someone from this group. And by the next dawn, only one of you will be alive, and that one person will inherit this mansion. I like the occasional competitive RPG. I'm not a very competitive person board game wise. I'm terrible at competitive games, but I always love when you get an RPG where people are all working together towards their own success, but also their own destruction. And this looks like it could be really good fun for that. And finally, there's The Door Locks Behind You by Deldon. This is a kind of Zelda or Metroidvania style dungeon crawling game. It's an item-based system, so you've got item deterioration. You'll have rooms which have puzzles, exploration to do, monsters to deal with, and you'll be crossing off on a lovely looking character sheet the uses, depending on how well or badly your rolls go. It looks really nice, really neat. Because of the Zelda theme, at the moment I'm eyeing it in an intrigued fashion, given I've already backed for Barrier in the Sound, but it looks like it will provide a slightly different experience and could be another really interesting looking project. So those are your lovely indie vegetables. You've sat through those. Very good. Very nice. I will quickly mention the big project, but look at those Zinequest ones first. So let's see, in order of, I guess, my interest, we have a couple of indies and one, I still don't know where to place them. I'm assuming kind of not as indie, but they're not Wizards or Onyx Path or anything. So the first one is a reprint of Good Society. This is a Jane Austen themed role-playing game. It looks amazing. It's on my bucket list for RPGs to run this year, and I really hope I get to do it, because I finally bought a physical copy and the deck of cards, and it looks lovely. Like, any game that has an epistolary phase sounds very cool. So they're doing a Kickstarter for a reprint, but they're also doing a little deck, which is the Love and Longing deck, which adds some extra desires, which are your character motivations. They have a quote on one side, and then you flip it over, and it tells you mechanically and truthfully what you're doing. So the quote might be about self-sufficiency, and the other side might be about casting out family members that you don't care for, that sort of thing. So the rest of the table doesn't always know entirely what your real agenda is, and that's where some of the fun interpersonal drama can happen. So some of those and some relationship cards, and again, the relationship says one thing on one side, like, we visit each other in town occasionally, and then you pass that over to someone, and if they accept it, if they're like, yeah, why not? Have a look, and it's, you're secretly parent and child, but don't let anyone else know. And of course, this is drama. Everyone will know at some point. So that's really cool. So there's that by Story Brewers. There's by the Adventurers Guild, one of them. The Quest expansion books. fantastic characters, and wondrous treasures. Now, Quest is an RPG which I think does a really good job of introducing people to role-playing games. Like, a fantastic job. And these are some books of creatures, characters. It's not a monster manual, because it's kind of reductive just calling everyone that isn't a player character monsters. In this case, you have people, but you also have creatures, you have things, but just by labeling it fantastic characters gives you the impression that you won't just be fighting them. And the system's really good at handling that sort of thing, so really interested to see how that looks. And Wondrous Treasures, which is about magic items and weird artifacts. And like a lot of the more indie offerings, they are weird. They're not just this sword is +1. They are, this is a little canary that when you send out, if the encounter that you're about to face, like if you go, oh yeah, we're going to fight this monster, it will play dead if there is a real risk of you dying. Which feels almost like an in-fiction version of John Wick's dire peril mechanic. But I'm cool with that. So far, I have backed that, but only to a digital level, because when it's all done and fulfilled, you'll get a code which you can use to buy a physical copy of the book and get the price of the digital one discounted. And that's a really nice idea. And finally, there's the One Ring RPG 2nd edition by Free League, who are the company where I'm like, are they indie? Are they not? I don't know. But it's Lord of the Rings. Looks very pretty. Yeah. Nice. So those are a lot of things from Zinequest and beyond. I didn't do a what I've played this episode. I've mostly been keeping to the same games. I've been running Yellow King with my weekly group, Blades in the Dark with my monthly group, Deadlands with my fortnightly group, and then I ran Alice is Missing, but I ended up having double the amount of players asked to play it, so I'm going to run a second game and I will review it after that. So that's it for Zinequest this time. As ever, like, comment, subscribe, check out our Patreon. I assume Mike will put a link somewhere, either there or there, about it. And hopefully soon my written reviews for Alien and Weave will be up. So until the next wave of me checking out Zinequest happens, that's it for me. Bye.